Hi there, welcome to this training about 3 ways, pretty unexpected ways actually, you can use client feedback in order to actually build your practice in a really proactive way. I'm really excited to be sharing this with you because this brings together a bunch of different presentations and trainings we've given to various professional service practices and organizations around the world. And it all brings it all together in a way I think you're gonna be able to pull these things and find either one or all 3 of these things really match what you could actually go out there and do to build your practice. So one of the things that we really need to address is this idea of surveys, right? Because for the most part, surveys as we have known them are fairly pointless. You probably think of surveys as those things that you do after you've done some work to get some feedback afterwards, and they're fairly pointless. And this entire training is designed to flip that round on its head. And it's the reason we actually were founded as a business here at ResponseSuite, is because we realize there's a different way of using surveys that have a proactive impact on our businesses and that allow us to do some really interesting things. So let's get into it. First of all, surveys are pretty pointless, and it's a pretty blunt thing to say, because they're almost always retrospective. They're always like, how did we do? What do you think of the work we did together? And they're looking backwards. And there is always value in looking backwards. Yes, but most of the time the way that surveys work, the data that is gleaned from those surveys is actually almost completely unactionable and totally useless, right? We're going to get into that and changing that. I'm going to give you just 3 of the different ways you could actually use surveys. And I think you should be using surveys to actually proactively build your business rather than being pointless. Also, they're usually general overviews. They end usually with some kind of pie chart or some kind of graph or chart or something, which shows you in general, this is what people thought of that piece of work you did retrospectively. So you know that a majority of people thought this area of what you're doing is good and this area could be improved. While that's useful for you overall, it's not useful in terms of one-to-one client relationships and building your practice in a quick way. That's the other thing. We want to look at things that are going to have a fast implementation and are going to see results for you really quickly. And that's what these 3 methods are going to do as well for you. Also, often these surveys are just a compliance activity. They're just a box-checking exercise that says, oh, yeah, we do that thing in order to comply with the various legislation that we all need to comply with. And generally, finally, they have no commercial impact. Surveys are used by large organizations usually in order to bring to the board meeting and show their shareholders and stakeholders, this is how we're doing versus this is how we're not doing. Or on a smaller level, they're used by the managers at various levels within organizations to say this is how we're performing overall. But the really frustrating thing about this is that there is amazing potential in surveys. Surveys, if you think of them in a very different way, which is what I'm going to share with you during this special training for you, they have the incredible ability to connect with new clients in a really low pressure way. I don't know about you, but I'm not a salesperson. I don't really like selling. It's not part of what I've ever done. I like to just do what I do, which in my case is help people use surveys to get understanding of customers so we can help them and make more sales, right? I really enjoy doing that because it's a low pressure way of actually connecting with these new clients. Surveys are a really great way of understanding what clients want right now in this moment in time. It's all well and good knowing in general what the market wants or what's happening in the market or what clients in general want based on a pie chart or a bar graph or something like that. But it will be much more interesting and much more useful for you and I if we knew what this particular client wants right now. And the timeliness of this, a big thing we all struggle with, is getting the timing right of when we're going to work together. Oh, I've just signed this, or oh, this is happening in the business, and that thing and what you're talking about is not a priority for me right now. All of that sort of goes away if you understand what is a priority for them right now. And surveys are amazing for pre-qualifying clients. I know we all have to do, and we've also gotten used to this idea, for some reason, of having meetings and knowing that a proportion of those meetings are going to turn into, actually, this is not a good fit. And you can actually use the kind of surveys we're going to talk about in this training in order to make sure you have more meetings with people who are a right fit, not just to save some of your time, but also saving clients' time. Because if you're there for a sales meeting or a sales presentation where you're talking about the potential of working together, and actually they're just not in the right place to do that, both parties' times, yours and theirs, is being wasted, and you could both be spending that time better serving existing clients, building your business, and talking to people who are the perfect clients. So that's the survey problem. But there's also a problem with the old sort of fashioned sales thing. And the first thing is that it's usually when you're selling or proposing your services, you're usually interrupting people when they're really not looking for what you offer. So whether that's through an ad, when they're scrolling through some kind of website or something, you're interrupting their journey in order to go, hey, do you want this thing? So that's why you don't have a majority of people who see your offers actually taking you up on it, because you're interrupting them, right? The second thing is, sales has a very us versus them feel, doesn't it? It's like, hey, I've got this agenda, I've got to sell this thing to you because I want to build our business and I want to hit my numbers and we want to grow. And they're there defending their bank account going, yeah, but I want it cheaper, and yeah, but I want something different. And so it's very us versus them. And most of us actually don't enjoy selling at all. It would be better if we could just continue doing what we do best, which is serving clients, working with clients and getting them brilliant outcomes with our services, right? So this now I've built up like the two problems that we've got, and one of them is with selling, which is what part of what this training is about, and the other thing is about surveys. There's some big problems with that we talked about, and we're going to bring those two things together, which is sales and building our businesses and increasing client value and winning new clients, with surveys to solve both of those things. So the solution is that we really want to have, in a dream world, what would we really have? We'd have people coming to us saying, knocking down our door saying, can I be a client? That would be a dream. We also want to plant the seeds into our clients' minds so that they actually decide that they want what we've got without us having to sort of convince them or hoodwink them into thinking that. Nobody wants to do that. We ideally like to plant the seeds in their head so they come up with the idea. Because at the end of the day, we all know that people don't like to be sold to. They like to, if they decide on something themselves, they absolutely will buy. That's how it works. And if we can do that by planting some seeds that they do want a solution, one of the solutions that you offer, at least one solution that you offer, then that's when there's no sales needed. And ideally, we don't want to have to do any selling. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Okay. Also, we want to put them in what we call an active state of mind, where they're actually in motion. Easy illustration of how this works is if somebody is not in they're not in motion, so they're not currently looking for what you do, they're sort of standing still. And if you've ever had your vehicle, your car or whatever, break down, it's a sad thing. It happens to many of us. So it happened. My sister the other day called me up and said, hey, my car's broken down. Can you come and help us? So Emma and I raced up to help her out. And you know that the car's standing still and getting it moving, like pushing, that first getting it initially moving is the most challenging bit. Once you've got it moving, once it's in motion, it's easier to keep it in motion and actually speed it up and excite it. It's the same thing in any kind of communication or any kind of sales or any kind of client account management is in that once the person is already in motion, so they're looking for a solution, then it is so much easier to offer them a solution. But if they're not in that active state of mind, if that part of their brain about looking for a solution is not currently activated, then you've got to do that hard pushing of getting them moving, just like that car that's broken down by the side of the road. So we want to put them into an active state of mind where they are in motion already, so we don't have to do that hard bit, which is the bit I think most of us dislike the most, which is that getting it going. And then also, we also want to be able to ask questions that focus them on their favourite topic, which is themselves. Rather than having to talk about us and all the great things that you can do for them, you want to focus on them, what's happening for them. And the great news is that surveys used in the way that I'm going to share with you in this special training allow you to do all four of these things. They allow you to get people coming to you. They allow you to plant seeds in your clients' minds that allow them to decide that they're now looking for something, which puts them into an active state, moves them into motion so that when you offer a solution, that's easier than getting that car moving in the first place. And of course, we're going to ask questions. We're going to use them. We're going to use surveys in a question answering way, which is what they're designed for, but in a way that talks about them and their needs. So in this training, I'm going to share with you 3 different methods that allow you to do this. These are going to affect 3 different areas of your business. The first one is how to actually get more clients from seminars and presentations you give. The second is to get more business from each client and actually increase the client value of every client without having to put their fees up, because we know the resistance that comes with that, but we're still going to be able to earn more from each client. And we're also going to be able to attract new clients using a quiz. Now, I'm going to use that word quiz very lightly because it's not like a fun kind of quiz that you might see in the back of one of those old magazines. It's really about a self-identifying quiz, and you'll see how that works and is extremely powerful as we get through this. But I think that's going to be a huge piece for everyone. So the first thing we're going to talk about is these seminars and presentations. It's a common model that we get people either into a room or we get them online to a virtual seminar or presentation, and we give people a lot of value. You know, we share with them some important information they need to have. We raise some questions in their minds about things they did not even know about. And that starts the question answering process. That starts getting them in that motion we just talked about. And that's when we hope that they're going to say, actually, could I get some help from you on that area that you talked about? And also, the great thing about seminars and giving presentations and that kind of thing is it positions you as the expert. It positions your firm as the person who knows about this, as a respected authority. Okay, fair enough. Okay, lovely. So, the hard thing with seminars, there's a few difficulties with seminars when we're putting these things together. We're going to call them seminars, but we mean presentations or however you want to call them. But I like the word seminars. I'm going to go with that. The first thing is you work really hard to get people there in the first place. So you've decided you're going to put on a seminar, and you do have to work pretty hard to get people to say, yes, I'm interested, spread the word, get it out there, tell your email list, put it across your various social platforms, maybe even buy some advertising, share the message with key partners who might be able to spread the word further. All that sort of stuff to get people to register. And then the second part is you actually have to get people who've registered to show up. And there's always a drop-off rate of a certain amount, right? So it's pretty hard work getting people there in the first place. Then you put a load of effort and work and time and expertise and passion into putting the presentation itself together, so that you end up with something that is valuable, that stirs those questions, shows you off as the expert, and looks good, of course, as well. So there's enough, and what we always have, I had it with putting this training together for you, of getting that balance between going into enough detail and sharing enough expertise so that you can go out there and apply the lessons you're going to learn, but also not so much that it's overwhelming and people's brains are fried. So we want to make sure that your presentation presentation has all of that. But then the challenge then becomes, you've got people interested, you've got them to register, you've done all of that good stuff, you've got some of them to show up, great, you've got your presentation together, which you've spent a few days putting together and probably got a bit frustrated because they can be pretty frustrating to put together. And then most people actually leave that presentation without becoming clients. They leave with some really good questions. They leave having thought it was good and you were great, and you get lots of compliments and say that was really interesting, lots of food for thought there. I need to really do something about that. Yeah, I have lots to think about. Thank you so much. Really well put together. And then they don't become clients. That's just what happens, isn't it? And the other big thing, of course, is that you don't want to do a hard sales pitch at the seminar. Most of us don't want to do that. We don't want to end up with, and here's 32 ways you can become a client. That's really not what we want to do. So how do we get clients from these seminars, make all of that hard work really pay off? Because we're going to put that time in. And we know that putting seminars on and giving presentations and doing those things is really powerful, because we get all those reasons we just talked about, that we get to share our expertise, we get to get people who we know they're qualified. I mean, let's be honest, they're in the room, or they've joined online because they really need, or really feel that they need, and they want the answer to the question that the seminar poses, or they want the information that the seminar promises to give them, and they've made the effort to show up. So not only have they registered, they've actually shown up. They are highly qualified. Yet most of those people do not become clients, or they leave. Certainly a majority, or a significant proportion, shall we say. It might not be a majority for you, but there's a proportion of those people who don't actually become clients. So how do we fix that? And this is something we've worked with across a lot of the professional services. We've worked with CPAs. We work with law firms. We work with insurance brokers. There's lots of professional services we do that with. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this throughout. The first two examples I'm going to share with you happen just to be law firms, but obviously you'll see this applies perfectly to yourself. And the third one I actually put in an example specifically for our business. So let's take a look at what we can do straight after a seminar to increase the number of people who've attended seminars who then start the client conversation. This is a really powerful thing to do. So what we're going to do during the presentation, or sort of towards the end of the presentation, is say something to the group such as, we really hope you've enjoyed this, and people will be like nodding and saying, yes, this was great, as you know. What we're going to do, because we really care about the value you got from this, and we want to know what you found most valuable, is just now we are sending you out a simple questionnaire. We tend not to use the word surveys because that does put people off. People have a really bad stigma around surveys. They think they're going to be these 40-page documents that the IRS send us. Of course, they're not. They're going to be short. And I'm going to show you how short to make these surveys to make sure people do complete them, because it's a big thing. Like, if you don't get your surveys completed, these surveys I'm going to share with you, if they're not completed, if people don't fill them out, then they were pointless, right? So I'm going to show you how to increase that as well. So, yes, at the end of the seminar, you're going to say to people, okay, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. I hope you got lots of value out of it. We really care about what you found poignant for you, what you found with the really big lessons for you, and what you need more help with. So we're sending you a really short questionnaire. We'd really appreciate it if you would fill it out. And you've got two choices depending on what you feel is most appropriate. We find most of our clients using this approach who are getting the best results. Say, we've just sent it to you now while you're in the room. Just before you leave, would you please submit it? And then you can carry on. You don't have us chasing you for the survey, for the questionnaire. The other way of doing it, of course, if you're not comfortable with saying, hey, please fill it in before you leave, is to say, well, we've sent it out to you. Could you please fill it out in the next day or so? That would be really excellent. And then you can just have a bunch of communications, emails or texts or whatever is your SMS messages or whatever is your favorite phone calls, if you like, way of following up and saying, hey, would you please complete the survey? Please complete the questionnaire. Okay, I'm using surveys for the case of us because we know they're really surveys. But for, like I said, for outside of us, for their clients, you really want to use questionnaires and quizzes and stuff like that, because that's that negative association with the word surveys. All right. So that's what we're going to do. So what's in this survey? I hear you cry. Well, very simply, you are going to send a short feedback survey to each of these attendees, and it is going to be short. It's going to be like 3 or 4 questions. All right, really, really short. I've created this sample one for a made-up company, just so we don't use any of our customers' data, because we're obviously obsessed with the privacy of customers and stuff. So this is the first question. Overall, first of all, it says thank you for attending our seminar. Your feedback will help us to form future sessions. And we ask them just for an overall rating of the seminar. So this lets them realize, oh, this is feedback. Of course, we're going to be using this feedback in a different way, which we'll get onto in a moment. And they rate it. Let's just say it's a 9 out of 10 in this example. Okay, obviously it's all beautifully branded. You can see it all looks really good. Then we're going to identify the issues for this person who were particularly pertinent. So in this case, I'm using a law firm example, but it applies exactly to what we're doing here. Which of the points raised were pertinent to you at the moment? In this case, we're going to imagine this was a human resources, an HR seminar they were attending. And then we list the 3 or 4 main points from the seminar. And we ask the person just to check off the ones that were pertinent to them, right? The next question asks them, which of the following areas are you interested in hearing more about? And then this identifies a broader area of interest. Okay, so the first question there, just go back to it, is about the things that were covered during the seminar. So you break down the main 3 learning points, for example. The next one is really saying, these are the different services we offer as a business. The reason we do this is, and we're going to come on to this in a second with the second example, but most clients don't know all the things that you offer. And this is your opportunity to capture that information. So while this question here, question 2, is really about the seminar itself and the pertinent points from the seminar, question 3 here is really about which of these areas of our business could be useful to you as a client, if you were to become a client. But we position it as, which of the following areas are you interested in hearing more about? Select all which apply. And in this case, this is what this law firm does. Business merger and acquisitions, intellectual property, and tax advice. Okay, in this case. And they check those things. What we do then, based on the things that the items in that list that the seminar attendee checks, we create an opportunity for new business based on those things. And we do that by integrating your survey with your CRM or other systems. So let's just show you how that looks. We ask, so this was the question, and this person in this example, which happened to be me, of course, checked reviews of existing staff handbooks and strategic human resource planning. Both of those things are amazing new opportunities for this business. So this is a totally different way of using a survey to basically say, what is important to you right now? And then whatever they check, we tag them and we flag them as a brand new opportunity. Can you see how that's a huge, huge thing? And the same thing happens for the elements that they told you were important and pertinent from your seminar. If they thought certain things were, whichever the certain things were in the seminar that were pertinent to them and important to them right now, those are great opportunities for you to have conversations with them based on things they have self-selected and volunteered to share with you. This is not like artificial intelligence or any of that scary stuff, which still is a bit of a grey area in terms of its, well, not just its legal position, but its moral position of, hey, I know all these things about you. This is none of that. This is what are the people who are filling this in happy to share with you and say, this is where I need some help. This is why I need some guidance. This is what's important to us right now. And you've just identified some opportunities from it. So here's 2 opportunities I've just identified for business for this organization. But also, if they've identified some the pertinent points of the actual seminar, the presentation you gave, you now know those are opportunities for you to have a conversation as well. So basically, what we've done, instead of just using the feedback survey for bland feedback to find out if people enjoyed our seminar, and we can fluff up our feathers and stand with our heads held high going, we did a great seminar the other day. We've actually gone further than that, and yes, we have identified that, so we know what we're gonna do better in the future for other future seminars, and what we have done really well, so we're gonna keep doing our future seminars. We've done even more than that at the same time as doing that, because you're gonna do this survey, this questionnaire anyway. So yes, you've got that data from that first question. What did you think of it between 0 and 10? Really simple. But as well as doing that, at the same time, we've identified the all-important new opportunities to work with these people based on what's important to them right now. So when we do pick up the phone or drop them an email, all we're saying to them is, "Hi, Janice. Thank you so much for coming to the seminar. We really appreciate it. And thank you for filling out the questionnaire afterwards. Actually, while I've got you on the phone," and this is not even a sales conversation if you think about it, it's just, I've got you on the phone. You said that, I noticed you mentioned in your questionnaire that you have an issue with this and with that. Do you want me to set up an appointment to talk to somebody about how we might be able to help you with that? And they're like, well, yes, they're going to say yes. They have to say yes because they've identified that's the thing that they're struggling with right now. Right? They've self-selected that that's what's important to them, and it's important to them now. It's a timely issue. So there's no guessing, there's no having to do that awkward, awful bit that salesmen have to do, which is finding out what their pain point is and finding out what's a struggle. You've already done that through the survey, through the questionnaire. So you're right there. So that's that first one, and that's a really awesome way of doing this. What's really nice about having such a short survey, did you see how short that survey was? It was, tell us how good you thought the whole thing was between 0 and 10, what was pertinent from the presentation, which of these other areas of the business are interesting to you, do you need some help with? That was it. That was all we asked. There was no point in these surveys where people were having to type anything. And that is so important. When you run surveys, every time somebody has to type something, your completion rate and engagement on that survey, getting people into that active zone, drops down significantly. We have a saying here called clicking, not thinking. As soon as somebody types, they have to engage their brain and think a lot. And we say, don't do that. If you want to increase your completion rates on your surveys, increase how many times people click, and reduce to 0 if you possibly can, how many times they have to think, i.e. type. So we've reduced all of that down to just those questions, right? Just those 3 questions, which means your completion rate on this type of questionnaire is always going to be significantly higher than any questionnaires you might have seen or run in the past. And what's great is you can tell them that before they even go check out the survey or questionnaire. If you say to them, hey, I'm going to send you a survey out, they might think, oh, I'm going to have to figure out some time, I've got to go through that. Because in their mind, they hear the word survey and they think it's going to be long. Don't even worry about that, okay? Just say to them, we're going to send out a questionnaire. It's a 3-question questionnaire, and they're all just check boxes. There's nothing for you to write. There's no big essays to write. It's just 3 check boxes, and it will really help us understand what's working in this, and also where you're at. It's going to take you 3 seconds because it's 3 clicks. You're going to get lots of people in that room just thinking, oh, I'm going to just do that now while I'm in the room. Okay, so your completion rate is massively higher, and you don't get that sinking feeling in the room of, oh, I've got to fill out the questionnaire now. I haven't got time for that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make the time to do that. So clicking, not thinking, much higher completion rates, which means you identify even more new opportunities. So that's the first one. That's how to turn those seminars, whether you're delivering them online or you're delivering them in person. Awesome stuff. Let's look at the second example, all right? You'll see it's related, but you'll see that it's got a slight change, and that is about looking at how much our clients spend with us. Because right now, our clients don't all know everything we can possibly do for them. That's the big thing. They don't know. How many times have you heard a client say, oh, I use this other person for that? Give you an example. Here in the UK, we have something called research and development tax relief or tax claims. And we have our accountant who does our accounts, but we use a separate business to sort out our R&D, research and development tax claim, because we didn't know that our accountant does the R&D tax claim. Why would we know that? We're not psychic, right? So, so that's the same in everything we do. That our clients are doing different things. So, our clients use different firms for various things. We know that. In general, there are things that they are doing, and there are things that they're taking to other people that they could bring to you. But the challenge for us is actually knowing all of a client's needs. Yes, we can sit down with them and understand their business and do a deep dive and all that really important stuff that we have to do anyway, and we should be doing. But clients take stuff for granted, they breeze over things, and that's why we find out later that they've been doing something and they shouldn't have been doing that, or all the variations of that, which we're all familiar with, right? But also, clients want simplicity. Instead of having to deal with 3 different firms or 3 different people, they could just be dealing with you. So if your client brings more work to you, it simplifies things for them, and you increase your spend per client, the value of each client, without having to ramp their fees up. It's a win-win-win. Also, of course, it means that you have a much more complete, holistic view of everything that's going on in their business, which makes every single thing you're doing for them much easier, more effective. You can deliver more value to the clients while also, of course, receiving that increased client value. It's easier to get existing clients to spend more with you than it is to go and find a brand new client. Always. Like, finding new clients is one of the hardest things, right? And of course, as I said, you don't have to raise their prices, but you can still increase spend. If only you could get your clients to spend more with you, basically to get you to do more things for them, to get them to do more stuff for you. So, how do we do that? And we're going to do it, of course, using a survey, using a questionnaire. I'm going to just race through this bit because you'll get the idea. So once you've got a piece of work complete with a client, if it's a project type piece of work, or once you've got them onboarded and you're in a good routine with them, so, you know, however long you feel like it is until you can really bed in a new client and you've got that sort of systematic thing working. That could be 3 or 4 months, okay? Maybe a little bit longer for some clients. Maybe for you it's a little quicker, and good for you. After we've done that, we're going to send them a questionnaire and ask them, in general, well, that first question, which I just didn't bother putting up here because you've already seen it, is how would you rate the service you're getting from us? And again, they're going to rate you from 0 to 10. And so long as they think you're an 8, 9, or a 10, maybe a 9 or a 10 if you're being completely harsh on yourself, the next question that's going to pop up is going to be about identifying the next things they might need. Now, in the case of our example legal firm, which we've just been using as an example, which I realize is not what we do, but you get the idea. We might ask them if they're a commercial law firm, for example. We might be asking which the following areas that they're interested in hearing more about: terms and conditions, shareholders agreements, property lease, IP, tax advice, etc. For us, this might be to do with certain tax schemes or certain other, basically depending on what your firm's set up to do, okay? And then the person and the client says, well, I think you're great, so they give you a 9 or a 10 out of 10, and they check all the ones that they want some help with. What's really nice about this is the perfect way of listing a bunch of your most popular services that you can offer them that they're currently not taking, and listing them and putting them under their nose when they're in this active mode, when they're already rolling in the car, as we go back to that metaphor again. And we get to say to them, we also do these things, by the way, but without saying, hey, we also do these things as well. Instead, we put it as a question because we want to make it about them, the topic they're most interested in. And we ask them, which of the following areas are you most interested in hearing more about? And they check those things off. So not only do they get to hear of all the different things that they didn't even know you did, you've just listed them off in the law firm example here. They might not have known that the law firm does shareholder agreements and can review their property leases and can work with them on business merger and acquisitions. They might not have known that that's part of what you do. Because why would they? Like we said, they're not psychic. So you get to put that underneath. But not only that, But they then get to vote for what they're happy for you to talk to them about, for what they're happy to hear more about. They get to say, well, actually, I don't care about any of these apart from that top one there. I want you to review my terms and conditions. And then we've identified, hello, another opportunity. And that's an opportunity to maximize that client value, simplify a lot of stuff for their client, possibly even save the client some money if they're keeping it all in-house with you. But possibly not, and that's okay too. You might have a higher rate for that. That's not really a major part of this, but it's about centralizing, simplifying, giving you that holistic view of their business, financially speaking, and of course, increasing the client spend with you. I hope that makes sense of those there's two different things. Now, it does beg the question, what if the feedback is negative? What if, we all have grumpy clients, sometimes things just go a little bit wrong, like we're living in the real world here, not the ideal world. Well, if they rate you, I'm going to say 8 or below, so actually 7 or below, right? Then we're going to route them differently through the survey. And because you can use things called conditional logic or skip logic, depending on what you use, what you want to call it. And that is like if they choose 7 or below, we're not going to say, hey, what else can we help you out with? Because that's sort of like, well, nothing, because I don't feel very satisfied or happy as a client right now. But instead, we can activate a customer service function. And that is, we're going to break the rule of not having them type anything because we want to care and allow them to express their personal situation rather than trying to get them to summarize what they feel based on a checkbox. That's really frustrating for clients, we've found from our research. So we make a box appear, that number 2 there, which says, we are sorry, this is much lower than we had hoped. Could you please give us some feedback so we can make some improvements going forward? When they do that and they hit next, we're then going to activate a customer service function, and we would recommend a phone call to somebody to pick up the phone and say, we're really sorry, we got your feedback, we really appreciate you taking the time to do that. It looks like you had a problem with whatever it is, and you get to make it right. And you get to cement that long-term relationship rather than losing that relationship and whatever fallout of the negative PR you get, the negative publicity online or in their professional or social circles around your firm. You get to protect your reputation. You got to protect your reputation by picking up the phone and making it right. And then they can go on to later, perhaps, spending more with you, coming on board with more services, and having a longer lifetime customer value, having a longer customer lifetime cycle, okay? The big thing that both of these things rely on, and the third thing I'm going to share, and this is for the third one I'm going to share with you, which is generating new customers using what we call a quiz. We'll get onto that in a moment. The thing that these rely on, which traditional surveys do not, is actually being able to identify each respondent individually, rather than just seeing them as a pie chart, as a number that you can't go back and go, who was that? You are going to be able to, you need to be able to identify each person. And the way you do that, you can either ask for their email address in one of the fields, so you can drop in one of your questions is, hi, what's your email address? And now you'll know who that was. And you'll have to do that for the quiz example I'm about to share with you if you're doing it to brand new people who are not already in your system. Or if you're using a tool like Response Suite, like our tool, we designed it specifically so that if the person is already in your world, you have their details. So you're following up after a seminar, or they're an existing client who you're trying to offer more services to and increase their client value. So basically, you've already got their details. Then using a tool like Response Suite, we designed it so that when they click that link, they go to the survey, they actually never need to type in their email address or their name, because you can pass that across completely invisibly and they won't even know it's there. So they don't even need to type that, so that you'll get slightly more honest feedback in terms of what they really want help with. because they're not then having to type that in. Also, you'll get more responses because they're not having to do any typing their email address. Also means they can't accidentally mistype their email address or put in a different email address to the one you've got on your existing contact, because people these days, I'm sure like yourself, have multiple email addresses. And we've seen it before where we're following up saying, hey, would you please complete the survey? Would you please complete the survey? And they're like, I have completed the survey, and we go look it up and they used a different email address. That's not going to happen because you're passing the email address across there. And it's very simple to do. We made it so that, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a technical person whatsoever. I haven't got a clue how this stuff works. I just know that it does work. And that's how we build the software, right? We built Response Suite specifically so that you can do it with no technology at all. If you can drag stuff around and use Microsoft Word or Pages for the Mac or something like that, you can do this. So doing that, the technology is like whatever, like it's really simple. So passing that email address across is really simple. It's like clicking a button and that comes across, which means they don't have to type it in. Of course, if you have to get them to type it in, you have to get them to type it in, and that's fine as well. All right, so that's two different versions. We've now being able to turn seminar or presentation attendees into more customers. Great. We've got those customers who are coming in, your existing customers, the new customers you generate from those seminars are now also going to be maximized in terms of their customer value. Let's go for a third one, which is stone cold people. How to bring new people in from scratch. And we call this a lead generation quiz. When I say we call it that, actually that's what it's just known as in general marketing terms. I don't really like the word quiz because it sounds a little bit frivolous and a little bit like, ooh, it's going to be a fun quiz. And actually this is a business quiz. So if we can deal with the word quiz and not think of it as silly cartoons and stuff like that, then I think we can use the word quiz if that's okay. All right. So how do we find brand new clients using this? Well, what's really nice is if you use your social channels, you can use your LinkedIn or whatever it is you're using, and you can drive people to a lead generation quiz. The whole point of a lead generation quiz is self-discovery for this prospective client, and at the same time, so that's what's in it for the client. And as usual with these surveys and quizzes, there are two agendas happening at the same time. There's the self-discovery, there's the client end of it. And the other half is us, what's in it for you and the way it works for you. And that is you get to pre-qualify people and figure out where they're at. So you end up speaking to more of the right people. So for brand new clients, most clients don't actually know what they don't know. That's the main problem. They don't even know what they don't know. So what we can do is we can use a quiz type formula approach to help them self-identify their gaps. So here's just two questions for a really simple quiz that I put together, and this, I literally put this together in 2 or 3 minutes. So if there's any typos in it, I apologize, but just drag this together in Response Suite in 2 minutes. And the first question was, what best describes your business? And I've, the 4 basic business structures. So sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, and business corporation. And they get to choose that because you might route them through a few different questions in the quiz, depending on which one of those they selected. I've obviously made a little mistake here, which is if I've chosen partnership in this example, but actually the route I'm going to show you is much more, probably slightly more applicable to the LLC. But forgive me that little thing. So, and here it is. Here's the next question on the quiz, which is, which of these do you have immediate access to or knowledge of? And this is basically saying, how set up are you financially speaking? So, and I've just put a bunch of options that us as business people should have access to. There are more. You're an expert in this. I'm truly not, and this is what you do. So again, excuse any faux pas on this. So things that businesses should have access to, which if they were working with you, they would have access to, right, are things like cash flow runway, their tax position, their profit and loss, order book value, liabilities, creditor position, debtor position, funding resources, share position, and company structure in terms of tax efficiency, right? Possibly, and other things. So liability and such. And then we ask them to select all the things that they are very aware of. They could just bring up really quickly, just like that. And what this does is it seeds all of the things that they don't even know they have access to. They might think, actually, I'm pretty financially savvy. But when you produce a list, which is essentially what that is, of things that you think they should have access to, they might go, hang on. In this case, I've selected that I've got access to 5 things in this example. But actually, I don't really have a good way of quickly being able to check up our creditor and debtor position. I don't really know how to look at what our current liability position is, or I don't really have any thoughts or any immediate access to our funding resources and company structure. I'm really not au fait with that at all. The great news is you've now seeded that there are gaps, and they've decided that because they're the one who couldn't click to say that, yeah, I've got a handle on that. Does that make sense? So you've now presented the problem to them. So now on the next page, when you ask for their name and their email address, you can send them their report, you can show them their results, which is what you do with a quiz. You say, in that report, on that next page, using many tools, I mean, Response Suite certainly does this, where you can, on that next page, you can show them, okay, this is your opportunity that you're missing. This is the gap in your business. These are the gaps that you've got that we can help you out with. So at the end of this, you're literally going to put them through a couple of questions. It could be 3 or 4 questions like this, which help them self-identify their gaps, helps you identify whether this is a person you want to deal with, because if they don't have an idea of any of these things, you might be in a place where you go, yeah, we don't really deal with clients in that position. Similarly, if they're a sole proprietorship, but you only deal with LLCs and business corporations, then again, that's going to discount you from contacting them and trying to arrange a meeting. You're going to waste less people's time, you're going to waste less of your time and spend more of your time speaking to the perfect clients every time, because you've got them to opt out, basically. You've got them to self-select their way out of that conversation. Whereas, if they check all the things that make you think, this is a perfect client for us, and they've self-identified their gaps, and now they have personally realized themselves where their gaps are by not being able to select these answers. Now when you reach out and say, hey, thanks for filling out that quiz, I notice you've got a 20% gap there where you don't really know how your company structure is and your debtor position are affecting your business growth. Is that something you'd like to have a chat with? And you do this by phone. I would mostly do it by email because you can completely automate that then. And now you're bringing in clients in a way that identifies them themselves, self-selects them, and makes sure that you only speak to qualified people in a way that they are in an active zone. Really, really powerful. So the concept we're teaching here at Response Suite is that you take surveys which ask for feedback on the left-hand side there, that ask for feedback and identify opportunities for you to help people, and you integrate it with your CRM. And that means by having the survey information in your CRM system, because Response Suite does that, Response Suite talks directly to your CRM, so it integrates, it means you get a single view of your clients. Rather than having to look in your CRM or your email marketing automation platform and also look in your survey platform, you have to look in 2 different places, your CRM and your survey platform, to get a complete view of your customers. Instead of that, which doesn't make much sense at all, you get to, just hit that by accident there, you get to look in your CRM and see everything, because you can put all of your survey responses into your CRM because they integrate. The next thing is that you get to create opportunities based on what those clients self-identify if your survey system links to your CRM. And by linking your survey system to your CRM, you get to increase the value of every single client. That's really important. The whole concept that we're trying to teach people around the world about changing the way that they think about surveys is about how you actually should be using feedback to collect the information you need to identify more of your clients' needs. And it's really good because it's extremely compliant. So in Europe, especially in the UK where I'm based, and I realize people around the world may not have to think about this as much, but we are obsessed with the compliance. So we have this thing called the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. And all of our surveys are delivered on secure pages. So all that information they're giving you is really secure. We host it on UK-based encrypted databases. we have a simple way. If somebody wants to get in touch with you and get rid of and not be contacted by you anymore, and you to forget all of their information that they've entered, you can do that with 2 clicks to actually allow you to implement something in the GDPR called the right to be forgotten. In a lot of survey platforms, that's quite tricky to do because you have to go through and find all the responses. It's quite tricky. 3 factors of authentication means you don't just log in with a normal username and password into your Response Suite account. You actually need to have a third piece of information, which is your personal subdomain. All 3 of those things need to match, otherwise you can't get into your account, which makes it incredibly more difficult for somebody to just get into your account. And it's all express opt-in permission. It's received from every single respondent. This is not artificial intelligence and big data. Every single person you're contacting is a person who's gone through your survey and decided what they're happy to share with you. That's really important. And of course, we do not share any data with any third party, obviously subject to the law. A lot of people do use free survey tools, and that's great. They definitely have their position. What we've got to all remember, and I think you are probably more familiar with this than anyone, is nothing really is free in life. If these free survey tools are not making money by charging people to use the service, they're making it from something else. And some of them do not just sell your data, the customer who's using the survey, they actually sell the respondents' data on as well. That does happen. I'm not saying they all do, but some of them do. They're making money somehow. The whole point of this is to automate everything so that you can set up your surveys once. You don't have to keep doing this over and over again. You integrate them with your systems. You let them produce more clients and higher client value. You do all of that on autopilot without having to do any selling whatsoever. That's the whole point of doing this. So I suppose it does bring up the question of what's the investment. I know people are going to have lots of questions around. You've been using Response Suite as the example of how this works. It's obviously a really powerful tool. The question is, how much is it worth for us to do this for you? How much time will it actually save you once it's set up and it's just running? And the ability that you can do all of this without having to sell, what is that worth, I suppose, is the question. As you know, most systems like this charge some kind of getting started or setup fee. And by setup, they don't mean they're doing anything for you. It's just a getting started fee to give you your account. And they range, as you know, from between $2,000 and $5,000 for that. And then on top of that, there's usually annual fees of between $2,000 and $10,000 to do that. Then on top of that, with a lot of platforms, there's some kind of support package where to get support on building your surveys and getting more response and stuff like that, there's some kind of support package, and they range usually around $99 per user per month, which for 2 users for the year is $2,376 for the year. All right. So that's basically a range of between $6,500 to $17,500. Basically, for being on this training, we did something really special, which is there's no setup fee, and also the annual fees are nothing like that, and also we're getting rid of the support fee. We're actually including support in your package, and you get all of that for just $690 for the year. Just $690 for the year for everything. Your own account, build as many surveys as you want. We don't limit how many surveys you use, by the way. You can build as many surveys as you want. You can get all the responses you want. You can use it across your business. You can use it internally for internal surveys. You can build as many surveys and quizzes and application forms. We've got our clients around the world using Response Suite surveys, not just in the ways that I've shared with you, but for application forms for jobs. We've got it internally for staff reviews. We've got it with customers for other projects. So many different ways. But as well as that, we've put something else together as well, which is we're going to give you an extra user. So you're going to get 3 users, and we charge $69 per month per user. So that's an extra $828 per year bonus included. Okay. Also, the templates of the surveys and quizzes from this talk, they're going to be in your account as well. They are already in your account. We actually charge $550 per survey to build them custom, so we're not going to charge you that. And we're also going to include something else called our Survey Marketing Masterclass, and that's an online training program which we charge $499 for. And we're including that, and it gives you, I think it's 8 different complete marketing approaches to using surveys, some of which we've talked about today, but there are 8 in total in that, so you can apply them across your business, and we're including that as well. So that's usually that's obviously, as you can see, worth $2,947, and that's included for your $690 per year. Okay, so let me just tot all of this up and just some weird random order that. So that's basically a value, depending on which service you comparing it to, of at least 9,353 up to over 20,500-ish. So, and that's only $690 for the year. If you use the link that we put together especially for this, which is, I'm sure, just below this video, you get all of that. So regardless of whether you join Response Suite or not, okay, that's not really the purpose of this, but we did want to put something together special for you for being here and for being part of this program. The whole idea of this is that you take surveys and application forms and quizzes and feedback questionnaires, and you use them in a very different way, which allow you to identify people individually. They allow you to figure out where they're at and what they need help with, and then use that specifically to offer them solutions. If you've got any questions at all, do reach out, and thank you again, and good luck.